So we are live from Long Beach and Calabasas. So want to welcome the amazing and love being in business with you, Halley Wright, TL from Coastal Properties in Long Beach. Welcome. And then I'm Stephanie Alatori.
I like how you say your name with an accent when you say it. Alatori. I feel like I need to say it like an Italian.
Let's do it. Let's have some fun with it.
Love it. I love it. Your energy is great today. I'm glad to see everyone's moving. Happy Monday. I hope we're all moving and grooving. I know I feel really energized this week. I can tell Stephanie feels really energized by her little dance. If you guys missed it, make sure you go back and watch the first couple minutes of this live, and I think you'll get a kick out of it.
It's been a while. It's like, let me out, man.
It has. It has. I'm ready to go dancing. So let's talk a little bit about everyone's favorite disclosure, the AVID. Yeah, so we're just going to go over what the AVID is, how to properly fill one out. Excuse me, talk a little bit about like do's and don'ts, and then give you guys a little bit of tips and tricks of how to make sure that you're following all the guidelines in regards to, when they need to be turned in and turned over to the agent or the buyer or the seller. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. Can you guys see my screen? No. I can see it. I can see it on the live. Can you not see it over there, Stephanie?
No. But you know what? Maybe
okay.
Oh, there it is.
Cool. Okay, perfect. I see it on the live video, so it sounds like it looks like everyone else can see it. Perfect. Mary says, oh, Rich. Hey, Richard, Mr. Lombari, what's up? He's the TL for Beach Cities. I'm happy to have you. Happy to see you can see it. Okay, perfect. So, of course, we're talking about the AVID. And what does AVID stand for? The Agent Visual Inspection Disclosure. So if you're a new agent, you very commonly hear this word said, in agent lingo when they said, oh, I need to still fill out my AVID. It's one of those disclosures that for some reason is never top of mind for us agents. So usually when you hear it, it's an expletive or a reminder to make sure that they get this done. So that's what AVID stands for. You're going to hear us talk about it a lot here, just using the acronym AVID, but it does stand for Agent Visual Inspection Disclosure. So let's move on here. Okay, so AVID overview. Stephanie, do you want to go over this?
AVID overview is, go back. Okay.
Yep.
The AVID is designed to assist the agent in meeting the obligation to conduct a diligent visual inspection of the reasonably accessible areas of the property and help satisfy fiduciary responsibility for both buyer and seller. So it's definitely, it is one of the most important things that you can do. So let me just add here real quick. Do you mind, Halley? Okay.
No, of course. Yeah, go ahead.
So let's say, something went haywire with a transaction, and people are going to litigate. They're going to mediate, arbitrate, litigate, whatever they decide to do. The first document that they're going to pull is the transfer disclosure statement and the supporting agent's visual inspection disclosures, right? They want to make sure that you guys are doing your job. So it's that important, okay? It's law. You guys have to do it. You have to disclose any material facts that you know about the property. Okay, so you just have to take it that seriously and always looking to CYA cover or CYB is cover your bootay, in case I don't say the other word, right? So you just want to make sure that you're always being extremely diligent and doing your job to protect yourself and everybody else associated with the transaction.
Right. And part of why they created this is because, again, we had this fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we're representing our clients in a proper way. And what was happening was there were people buying and selling, helping people buy and sell properties that never even stepped foot onto the property. So they were at huge liability and risk in regards to, well, that hole wasn't there when I walked through and saw at the open house, or that giant stain on the floor wasn't there. This is just, again, it's just a document for you to be able to write down everything that you see, that you smell, and that you can observe. So it's really covering you. Again, just like Stephanie said, it's so important that this gets done and gets done in a timely manner. So speaking of timely manner, the question is when should you complete an AVID? So AVIDs are used for both buyers and sellers, right? It's used on both sides. And we're going to talk a little bit about in a second, how and who it helps in which situation. So as a good general rule of thumb, that you should complete the AVID usually during the inspection when you're representing the buyer. Why is that? It's because usually you have more than one party there, which is good. You have the inspector and, in good taste, you have either your buyer or the listing agent, but you have multiple parties there. So they can also provide a secondary set of eyes and verification in regards to the condition that you're writing down. So if it ever were to come into question, there were people there to kind of back you up, right? So we usually say do it during the inspection. Do not do it during an open house. Do not do it during your final walkthrough, right? That's too late. It's too late. And we're going to talk about that more. When you're a seller's agent, it's a little bit different, right? So not everyone actually goes to the property multiple times before listing. Some people go to the property 5, 6, 7 times before you actually put it on the market, right? You're going there to do your listing presentation. You're going there to actually take the listing. You're going there to maybe with the stager or with the listing photos, all that kind of stuff. So just make sure that you're completing it before the actual property is active. Now, why do we say complete it before it's active? Well, because it's super important that you as the seller's agent are disclosing that AVID in a timely manner during the inspection contingency period that the buyers have in their escrow. So if you need to disclose it quickly, let's say, for example, you have an all-cash offer that's doing a 5-day inspection contingency because they know they can get the inspector out there within a day or two. The last thing you want to happen is to disclose late with your AVID because you don't have it already ready. So try to do it when you're actually taking the listing, or you're doing, for example, the staging is another good time because usually it's decluttered, usually there's more personal items out of the home, so you can actually view more of the property. Okay? And again, if you guys have any questions while Stephanie and I are talking, make sure you just drop them there in the Facebook Live chat. Okay, Steph, you take this one.
When should you turn it in? ASAP. As a buyer's agent, ASAP. I can't tell you how many times that I've, all contingencies have been removed, and then we find out that the buyer's agent still hasn't done their AVID. And it's like, oh, should I go turn that in? I'm like, ugh. My goodness, absolutely. Guys, like Halley just said, when the great time to do it from a buyer standpoint is definitely during the home inspection, right? So you have the time because you want to take your time to do it and be detailed when you do it. And we'll talk more about the description and what you write, etc., in just a little bit. But you guys have to do this. And one thing you have to keep in mind, that let's say all contingencies are removed. Let's say you've removed all contingencies. Then all of a sudden you realize, oh my goodness, the buyer's agent didn't turn in their AVID. Okay, so all of a sudden the AVID gets turned in and gets circulated for everybody's signature. There's a new material fact on the AVID. Well, guess what? That gives the buyer 5 days to approve or disapprove the home again, because it's a new material fact. And it doesn't matter if all contingencies have been removed. Okay, so you have to make sure that you guys get your shedizzle in as soon as possible, and make sure that, because you guys are here to protect your clients, right? You're here to protect yourself, your clients, the company, etc., and make sure that's a smooth transaction. And that means doing your job and make sure you get everything in timely, and you're able to be, not give the buyers an opportunity to get out of the contract, right? Because it's very important. Seller's agent, submit with initial disclosures. Must be before buyer's inspection contingency period. So remember, especially in this crazy market where, it's so competitive, right? It's so competitive. You have multiple offer situations. And like Halley said, if there happens to be someone comes in with an all cash offer, they're trying to push it through for a 2-week close, etc. They're tightening all the time frames. And then all of a sudden, you have everything done, but you didn't do your visual inspection. Well, gosh, then you're putting out, you give them more time, et cetera, et cetera. So just be timely. And this is where your time management comes into effect. Make sure you let the clients know that they get all their disclosures done, right? It's not only you, but make sure they get all theirs done. Make sure that they go through the TDS. Remember, they sign it and fill it out themselves. You don't help them. You don't touch the computer clicker if they're doing it via DocuSign, or you don't put your pen to paper when it comes to if they're actually signing it. So just make sure that you turn it in as soon as possible, be timely on it, so you can make sure that you have a very solid and secure transaction.
Yes, and make sure if you're using a TC that you're turning it into them, again, in a timely manner. It's not just about filling it out and completing it, but it's about actually handing it over to the other party. Okay, so make sure that that is just as important. I know a lot of the agents here, you'll fill out your AVID and you just won't send it over to your to either the other party, the other agent, or to your TC who's sending it out for days or even a week or 2 weeks. Sometimes I've been guilty of that, and I will slap myself on the wrist for doing that. So just make sure you turn it over in a timely manner. Okay. So let's talk about do's and don'ts for AVID. Now, for a form that looks fairly simple, I think any form, particularly on the car forms, that has blank lines, there is always so much room for error, right? Because as realtors, we love checking boxes, filling out numbers, doing that kind of stuff. Now, once you get into the writing and using words and filling out that actual AVID, it can be daunting to see those blank lines and spaces. So let's talk about some of the do's in regards to your agent visual inspection disclosure. Okay, right? So first do prepare your client to receive and review the document. Now, why is this important? When Stephanie or I are going to fill out an AVID live for you guys so you can see some of the verbiage that we use. But again, it is a visual inspection of the property. So sometimes you're going to describe things that are not necessarily positive attributes of the property. Okay? You're going to be saying like, nails in the wall. I'm sorry, TC means transaction coordinator. For those of you newbies that don't know what it means, I saw you asking on Facebook. So you might say holes, nail holes in the wall, or you might say, discoloration on carpet. Now, if you don't prep your clients to see this document, they are going to say, oh, well, wait, that's a lot wrong with the property. Well, why did the inspector not say those things? Or maybe they didn't say those things. So make sure you let them know that this literally is a form that everyone has to fill out, that you aren't necessarily going to point out the positive attributes to the property, but you're going to make sure that you disclose anything that you could see see, hear, smell, and taste. I say taste, right? That's not. Please don't be tasting stuff. This is not Willy Wonka with the edible wallpaper. I'm sorry. Take that one out. But anything you can see and smell and feel, it can be daunting to see that document. So prepare them to see what they're going to see. Otherwise, it's going to totally freak them out, and you could lose an escrow because of it. Okay. So, do pay attention to your other senses, right? So you can write in there. I know Penny was just saying, and maybe Steph, you can let me weigh in on what you think about this. You can disclose things about your senses. You can disclose area and neighborhood noise, right? If it's significant, you can disclose things that beyond just what you see. Now, Penny says on your kit, do you disclose pet smells? So Steph, what would you say to that?
Yes, if you, well, because remember, we don't want to necessarily identify make a definition of what we think something is. Like if we think it's mold, we don't say it's mold. If we think it's a pet smell, it can be, we want you to say a smell. So you can just say there is a particular, there is a certain smell, there's a particular, maybe foul odor.
Yeah, odor is a good word to use. Yeah, odor is a good word to use, but definitely, just like Stephanie said, don't say pet odor, right? Because we're going to go over, sorry, you guys, I'm getting these texts. That way you aren't an expert, right? Stephanie's going to talk about that in a minute. We don't know why it smells. Even though we might know why it smells, we don't really know why it smells. Yeah, undefiable. No, see, I probably wouldn't say unusual smell. Unidentifiable odor is one of the best things to write on there. That's so true, Angie. Thank you. But yes, you can disclose odor. Okay. So, so again, do disclose any material facts, not just visual. So Stephanie, this was yours. Do you want to explain it?
Well, yeah. So if there are certain times when you're on a listing appointment or having conversations with your sellers, or let's say you are preparing the house to get ready to go on the market, right? And the neighbors are the ones that are going to tell you everything that they know about that house. Okay. So if all of a sudden, a lot of times I'm like, please don't talk to me, right? Because then if I know, then I disclose, right? And so they indicate to you that something has happened there, or if you know about a death on the property within the last 3 years, etc., then that's material facts that you know about the property, right? So those are things that you would also disclose. Let's say I'm just going to think of it, for example.
Like a sound one is a good one. No, neighborhood noise. Say they're under like an air path would be a good one that I've had with neighborhood stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's anything that you have been told about the property. Let's say if the owner told you, okay, I have we did the ADU in the back, but none of it's permitted, right? That's a material fact, right? So we'll just say, that the seller, that it, buyer to determine if the ADU has been permitted or not permitted, all that kind of stuff comes in the 9A report or the city report, all depends on where you're at. But any information that has been shared to you by the seller that you know to be, that's something that you know about that was not obtained through your visual inspection.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. Okay, Steph, why don't you start us off with the don'ts? Let's talk about what we can't do and shouldn't do for our AVIDs.
So don't be an expert, okay? You may know everything about something or had an experience, like let's say you went and looked in the bathroom and you're like, oh my God, I know that's something that's mold, and for sure, because I had that same experience. You're not the expert, right? So if you see a stain, you just say, okay, there's a spot, there's a discoloration, there's something. Don't try to, like I said, don't be the expert on trying to come to the conclusion as what you believe it to be. Be as almost nondescript as you can, but indicating, like a scuff on the wall, right? A hole in the wall or something like that, but not, oh, it looks like a fist puncher. I don't know. Just make sure that you're not claiming that it is what it is. You're not labeling it. I'm not seeing what's happening here.
I'm sorry, my email's freaking out. I apologize, guys. Technology.
Yeah, so you don't want, because if you're trying to come to a conclusion as to what something is, and then let's say you had to go to court or you got called in, and then they would ask you why you believe that you're an expert on this. If you're being called in as an expert witness because you had a conclusion as to what you observed. Does that make sense, guys? Not that you can say anything back to me, right?
It makes sense to me. It makes sense to me, Steph. That's a good one. Yeah, do you want to do the next one too? I'll say the last one.
So funny. Can you just ask people not to tell you anything about the home? No, not necessarily. Label anything like, water stain, mold, right? I'm just trying to think of other things.
Yeah, we talked about pet smell, right?
Yeah,
Pet smell.
pet smell, anything
like hairline, anything size-wise, right? Don't say large. Don't say hairline. Don't say small. Don't say, even yellow or brown. Even colors sometimes are very up for interpretation. So I say just leave them out.
Yeah, absolutely. So just like I said, you're being observant, but you're being very vague, if that makes sense, because it's just a visual inspection. Okay, like in this room, I'd say scuffs on the walls. Let's say one of the light bulbs is out, right? Broken tile, scuffs on wall, chip in paint, electrical outlet cover off, right? Maybe some gaps between the drywall and the socket. What else?
Yeah. So you can see just even how Stephanie's describing that room right now, you sound like, oh, that room kind of sounds like it needs some work. Right? Because she's listing this laundry list of items. So you can see, again, make sure that you are prepping your clients to read these documents so they don't, feel the same way I just felt right now about the training room in Calabasas. And it's gorgeous. It's nice.
Yeah, and if there's, like someone just said, Angie, don't move furniture. Yeah, so if there's a certain area that's inaccessible, then let's say there's half the garage is inaccessible, right? So it just says, half the right-hand side of the garage is inaccessible for me to do the visual inspection. I mean, just like the pest guy does when he goes to do his report, hey, it was inaccessible there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, make sure you write things like inaccessible. I took a listing once where it was a hoarding situation. And so, of course, when I'm going through and representing the buyer, one of these rooms was just so cluttered, I couldn't even access it. So I couldn't tell you if there was stains on the floor or scuffs on the walls or anything. Just make sure you note, could not inspect. Right? You could write a reason why, could not inspect because of personal items, or could not inspect because, access was unavailable, something like that. So that brings me into the other section, which is don't leave items blank. right? So again, let's say you can't get into the bedroom because it's so cluttered. Don't leave it blank and not write anything in there. Write could not inspect, right? Or could not, could not access or something. Don't ever leave a line in there blank. Why is that? Because in theory, it's leaving you open for some liability just in case some realtor or the other side wanted to write something in there, or your TC decided to help you out a little bit and help you fill it out. It's just leaving you open for vulnerability to be able to have that document changed. So do make sure, and we're going to talk about this in a second, even if, let's say one of the sections on there is a hallway, right? Let's say this place doesn't have a hallway or doesn't have an entryway. We write nothing to report, or NA, right? NA would be they don't have it. Nothing to report would be, if you can't access the area or something like that. So just make sure that you're not leaving it completely blank on the lines.
Yeah, and remember the AVID is for anything that could negatively impact the home. Okay, this is not a sales pitch for you like, oh, this beautiful, what do you call it? I don't know, this beautiful paint job or something like that. It's not a sales pitch. It's anything that could negatively impact the home. You always want to look at it. Okay, if this was to go to litigation, would they know that I did my due diligence and did a all comprehensive visual inspection of the property, right? So you just want to make sure that you handle it. Just like on the outside, right? We have to make comments about the outside. It could be tree broken in half, grass overgrown, debris in the backyard, latch broken on the side gate, etc. I mean, I'm not trying to paint a picture of a really tear down type of place, but little things, but anything that could negatively impact the property.
Okay. Perfect. So let's start filling out an AVID quickly, and we're just going to make up some scenarios here. Let me share my screen again. Give me 1 second. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Let's make it full screen so that way it's easier to see. Can you see my screen, Steph?
Yep.
Facebook? Thumbs? Thumbs. I like the little happy or the hearts. I like the hearts. That one's nice. Can you guys see it? Okay, perfect. I see it on there. Great. Okay, so this is what the actual AVID form looks like. And again, for you newbies, this can be accessed through your Zip Forms portfolio in the car association, the documents that we receive from them. Oh, great. I see some thumbs up. Thanks, guys. So just make sure you add in all forms. It's very easily searchable here on the side where you can just type in AVID and it pops up really quickly. Right? So it's going to be this first one right here. Okay, fantastic. So it's very self-explanatory, but let's just go through a few of these things. So the inspection disclosure concerns, basically put your city in here. So we're going to put in here, we're going to go to Long Beach. Okay, Steph? Sounds good. What? Okay, county, we're in Los Angeles County. Perfect. Described as, okay, let's just say, this is my favorite one, if all my newbies know. Okay, great. Okay, cool. So that you're going to put that in there, make sure the address goes in here, right? So this right here, this property is a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. This AVID is for unit block. So remember, one AVID per property, right? This AVID is for units 1 through 4. So if you have more than 4 units, you need to use a different form. This is for residential 1 through 4, right? So if it's a duplex, a triplex, or fourplex, make sure you're clicking this little box right here, and then you're completing for which unit number or letter or whatever is representing that unit, right? Does that make sense? So inspection performed by, this is going to be the real estate broker firm name, okay? So this is not Halley Wright Realtor. This is Keller Williams Coastal Properties. Got it? Perfect. So California law requires, with limited exceptions, that the real estate broker or salesperson collectively, which is the agent, conduct a reasonably competent and diligent visual inspection of reasonably and normally accessible areas. So that's, again, important, reasonably and normally accessible areas. They're not expecting you to crawl under the crawl space, right? So if you go down here again, reasonably and normally accessible areas off-site of the property, public records or permits, you're not supposed to pull those. This isn't a part of this form or document. And then common areas of planned developing condominiums. So when you're using an AVID in an apartment or in a condominium setting, you don't need to inspect like the pool area or the common areas or the walkway. This is just for the unit itself. Okay? So inspection limitations. Steph, do you want to go over this?
Where?
Inspection limitations. So where are we supposed to not go?
We are not supposed to go, you're not going to climb on the roof, okay? You're not going to look behind pictures and furniture and all that kind of stuff. Or, you're not going in there being, yes, you're doing a visual inspection, but you're not going in there being, Inspector Clues. You guys don't even know who that is. Okay, you're not trying to go, I'm trying to think of the word, like scavenger hunt type thing, right? And you're not going to be measuring square footage or anything like that. You're not going to determine if it has asbestos. A lot of times people will say, oh, the popcorn ceiling, well, that leads to one thing or another. No, it's not. Just keep in mind just the visual stuff, not labeling it, right? The permits. And one thing that I did want to add to when we're talking about if you would be given a material fact by the seller, what the language that I've always done is pursuant to the seller, right? Blah, 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 blah. So then they know where the material fact came from, pursuant to the seller, X, Y, Z. So it's just a matter of you guys are just doing a visual inspection. You're not going through a scavenger hunt. You're not going to try getting, injuring yourself, by going down in the crawl space or climbing up on the roof. We have the inspectors that will do all that stuff for you.
Yes. And then, basically it's important to know and to explain to your clients that this is not taking place of any inspections, right? So this does not take place of an inspection from a licensed inspector or an inspection company. Again, this is all just visual documentation of the property. And then you guys will see down here at the bottom, a lot of people forget or don't know this. This would more often happen when you're not sending it via DocuSign, but when you're having them sign it in person, that make sure that the initials go down here at the bottom of the first page. Okay? Perfect. So again, this is not a property or duplex or fourplex, so we don't have a unit number or anything in there. Inspection performed by real estate broker firm name. That's Keller Williams Coastal Properties in my case because I'm filling it out in my instance. Okay. So inspection date and time. We're going to say that this happened today, and we're going to say that we're doing it right now. But I'll say just for purposes, we'll say 3 p.m. Right. Some people are very specific. They'll say 3:33 p.m. Go for it. Do whatever you want. That's fine. Be as specific as you want. I don't think it could hurt you in this instance. So, weather condition. I think this is always really funny. When I first became an agent, I thought, why do they care about the weather? Again, it's another proof that you were actually on the property and in the area. So, very often, because we're here in Southern California, you say, sunny, hot, warm, fair, clear skies, whatever you want to do. Right? I know it's not exactly hot today, but we'll do sunny, clear skies. Oh, maybe I can spell correctly. Okay, perfect. So, other persons present. So this is what I talked about at the beginning. Having other people present during the time of doing the AVID again, helps protect you because it's another set of eyes to corroborate something if there was something that called into question. So you can be as specific as you want, but make sure you're at least listing titles. You don't have to be that specific. So you could say listing agent, and you could say, Stephanie Alatori, if you want to be very specific. You could say home inspector, and he was, it was Cookie Monster, actually, who was our home inspector for Rainbow Wave. So you can say home inspector, you can say buyer, you can say whatever you want, but just make sure that you're putting the title of who it is, right? It doesn't really help us if you write Stephanie and Cookie Monster on there, or you just write 2 people present. That's not going to help us at all. Got it? So Stephanie, let's say that we're inspecting a house that's 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. I'm going to write this down. Okay.
I'm going in the entryway.
Oh, good. Okay, good. So you're going to say that this Stephanie is acting this out, but they can't actually see you, Stephanie, so it doesn't help.
There's a red X in the entryway.
Okay, so let's say you're in the entryway and you're walking in. Just make up some of the things you might write down or see in the entryway, Stephanie.
Well, the entryway that I just came in, there was a red X on the floor.
Okay, so you want me to write. Tell me what to write.
An X on the floor. An X mark on the floor. X on floor.
Okay.
Okay. Put chips in tile.
Okay. And that's it, maybe, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, okay, perfect. Again, it's okay if you just write 1 or 2 things or even nothing to report. That's okay to do. Just do not leave it blank. Got it? So now we're going to move on to the living room of this 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. So Stephanie, what are some of the things that you see in the living room? Let's say we see some, this place has like gorgeous flooring, but we see these like black scuff marks all over the floor. And on the wall, there's a hole in the wall because the kid, your seller says, oh yeah, that was my 2-year-old who threw their toy in the wall. So how would you describe those 2 things?
So I would just put scuff, or there's a hole in the wall, just say hole in the wall.
And you can even be specific, hole in the, if you're a directional person, you can say west wall or, that kind of thing if you want. But hole in wall is just fine.
Yeah, and then I wasn't sure, we said scuffs on floor, scuffs on tile.
Perfect.
And then 2, I think we want to just make sure, that I would always find something to report. If you can do everything not to leave it blank or say there's nothing to report, I would just always, there's always a scuff somewhere. There's always a little tip there that, there's always something to report. So just make sure that we do everything we can to do that so it shows that we had that we were diligent in our inspection.
Perfect. So Stephanie, we're going to say this.
I have Rich in the back of my head, Rich would be saying, no, ladies, you report something in every room that there's
Again, we are not the brokers. We are the team leaders. So we are communicating as best as possible. So Stephanie, let's say that there's no dining room, right? What should we write there?
Yeah, I would just say no dining room in this house. Or you could put, because sometimes I don't know, what are your thoughts on non-applicable? Because they may say, well, what does that mean? That there was nothing to report? Or what, so you want to, because the one thing with statements, right, you can't be, we want to make sure that it's understood by everybody. So we may just put, this property does not have a dining room, or I don't know, just as a thought.
Yeah, I think both of those are fine. I think they're both okay. Okay, great. So let's say in the kitchen, you see some mysterious black, what you think is mold in the corner of the room. What would you write?
I just put, like if there's spots, I put spots in the corner. Yeah, it could be spots of anything, right? So like I said, you want to let them know that you saw something there, but you have no flipping idea of what it is that you saw there. Even though oh my gosh, I bet that's what it is. But yeah, spots, discoloration in the corner wall. You just need to make reference to it.
Right. Again, just make reference. Do not say, do not be too specific. That's why I say discoloration, because even saying stain, even saying, well, of course, saying like mold or damage or whatever, that is literally, that's literally explaining and extrapolating what it can be. Right?
Yeah, because you don't know if it's a stain, right? Because let's say you just spray some stuff on it, and then it goes away. Then it's not a stain anymore, right? So we always have to be, it could be marks too. Like I said, we have to show that we saw something visual, but we have to be not labeling it. We just have to be careful.
Mm-hmm. So on here in this line as well, it says other room. So that would be a good opportunity to write, say they have a second dining room, say they have a kitchen in the main room, but then they also have a little like a bar kitchen area in the basement, maybe it's like an ADU kind of scenario. So that's where you're going to write that in there. Otherwise, I always write in the other room, I would say no other room to report rather than saying NA, because again, NA is very unclear. It's okay if it's a notable, like this is a dining room, but in regards to other room, you want to make it clear that there's no other room beyond what you've already covered or what's covered on this document right here. Okay?
Oh, and then also, as a nice side note, you can take pictures, right? You can also take pictures that can be attached to the AVID. So if there's sometimes you have you're kind of like, what do I say about this? You can take pictures to be able to integrate into your AVID to assist with the disclosure process.
And I would encourage, particularly if you're a newer agent and you're really nervous about filling this form out, take lots of pictures. That way you can sit down and really think about it and look back through, or you can go to your broker or go to your TL and say, I'm not sure what to say in this room. Can you look at the pictures? It's a great tool to be able to utilize completing this document. Again, don't let it overwhelm you. Okay, so let's say there's no hallway, it's just an open floor plan, right? So we're just going to say NA here, okay, because there's no hallway. So like I said in the beginning of the exercise, this is a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom. So again, you're going to label the bedrooms and the bathrooms, particularly if there's multiple. So most often, if there is a master on the property, so if it's something where there's a bathroom attached, I usually write it down as 1. Right? I usually write it down as 1. So let's say that this doesn't have a master because there's only one bathroom, but we'll just say it's unit number 1. So Stephanie, describe what this bedroom is for me.
Brian, what the bedroom is.
Make it up. Be creative.
Let's see. The bedroom is. It has pink walls, right? It has pink walls, and there are a few little scuffs on it, and then it has actually there's a broken window in it, right? And then you actually turn the fan on, but the fan doesn't work, right? And then one of the this is a really pretty house. One of the closet doors is hanging off on the hinge. That's it.
Okay, let me see where I'm at. So scuffs on wall, you said that. I'm not going to say anything about the pink wall, right? Broken window. I would just say broken window. Again, don't if it's not opening, you know, and you know that it's it's the lining in the window is caught in the thing. No. Too far. Broken window, right? Broken window. I again probably am not very descriptive, but I would probably just say broken fan. You can say, you know, ceiling fan not operable is another one, or could not inspect ceiling fan if that's what you want to write. Could not inspect. And then what else did you say? Something about
The the closet door. Closet.
oh, the closet door was like hanging off of the thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I would probably say closet door not attached or not operable. Again, not operable is a good word to be able to use because it doesn't describe anything. You just can't operate it. You don't know why it's not operating. Stephanie, do you have any input of changing that, or you gave me a good one?
No, that's good. Because even when it comes to the fan, do we really know if it's not working or not working? You happen to turn it on. Maybe
Right.
the thing wasn't, so that's coming to a conclusion. So like you said, I wouldn't put the fan aspect in because you don't know for sure. You're making an assumption, right? But the other stuff you visually can see. You can see that there's a broken window. You see the scuffs, and you see that the closet door is hanging there.
Right. So someone asked, do you test all light switches and all faucets? So, that is going to be, that's going to be a question I want to get your input, Stephanie, because I test them, but I don't always write them in the AVID.
Yeah, no. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I'm saying because testing the light switches and stuff, testing the ceiling fan, testing those things are what the inspector's there to do.
Yeah, exactly. So you guys aren't there to say exactly, Halley. You guys aren't the inspector. You're doing a visual, remember, a visual inspection of the property.
Yeah.
Right? So so that's why you're not going to say anything about the ceiling fan because you don't know for sure. Maybe you got to do another little click or something like that. It's not your job to do that. So your job is just visual and to share any material facts that you know about the property.
Yeah. And then Angela, you said, what about door not attached to the hinges? I get what you're saying about not being attached to the hinges. I'm of the mind to cover myself always, and technically saying that the door's not attached to hinges, you don't know if that's what's wrong with the door, or you don't know if the screws aren't screwed into the actual door plate correctly or whatever. That's something that, again, I would be very vague, but it would just not operable is a great word to be able to use in those instances. So we'll say bedroom number 2 for speed along the process here. We'll say bedroom number 2 just has some nail polish on the carpet, right? You go in and you see that there's nail polish on the carpet, right? So I'm just going to put stain on carpet. Got it? Or not stain. We talked about not stain, right? We talked about, what did we say up here? Spot. Cool. Okay. So in the bathroom, what do you want to say about the bathroom, Steph?
So let's say, You can say, let's say if you, like we're talking about odors, right? So maybe it smells a little musty, under in there or something a little bit, and you're like, I wonder what that's for. But you can just say there's an odor. There's an odor in the bathroom. I don't know if the seller just left or so you can just say, odor, unidentifiable odor in the restroom. You can put, discoloration on the tiles, just whatever that you happen to see. Some of the stuff, you may feel is repetitious and you want to look for other ways to say things. You can just say this thing the same way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like outside, cracks in the driveway. That was always my go-to for outside, because it's like, oh man, I can't find anything. Okay, cracks in driveway. Cracks in the driveway, cracks in the sidewalk, whatever. So,
that's a good one.
Whatever you visually see.
Perfect. So I almost broke my own rule and I almost left stuff unmarked in there. So write NA. And then other room, that's where I say no other room to report. Okay? Got it. That way, again, it's making clear that it's not applicable, not applicable. Got it? Perfect. Okay, other, NA. Because there's nothing else on this property, right? In our little thing here. You guys get the gist of it. Great. So see addendum for additional rooms and structures. There is an addendum. So let's say there's 5 bedrooms that you have to inspect. It only gives you an option there for 3. If you have 5, you can use the addendum to be able to complete it. You just have to make sure that you're clicking that box and making sure that you're making it clear that there is an additional room or structure that's completed with the original, that's completed with the, sorry you guys, that's completed with the original AVID, okay? So garage and parking, just like Stephanie said, that's a really good way to write in there. What did you say, Stephanie? Crack in driveway.
Cracks in the sidewalk.
Yeah. Perfect. And then the exterior building, front, side, back, what do you normally say in here?
I mean, it just all depends. I mean, sometimes, most of them, it could be overgrown, grass is overgrown. Just remember, it's just what you're observing about the exterior. There could be, especially if it's a stucco house, there's usually always cracks in the stucco, right? If you're looking around, but don't, like I said, you just have to just share what you're seeing.
Yeah.
But you don't come to a conclusion, even though we may know if we see certain stuff that's like, oh my God, I wonder if we're having it with the foundation or something like that. You guys, we just never know. So it's not for us to come to the conclusion of what's actually happened.
Right. And then other observed or known conditions not specified above. This is where you're going to put in there any of your things that you are exhibiting that weren't listed here. So that's where you're going to put in there, your noise in the area, right? Or like what Stephanie said, something that maybe the seller disclosed to you when you're walking through. This is that section where you can be specific in there. So let's say if there's not any, we're just going to say NA. Right, for the sake of time, nothing else. Okay, so this last section here at the bottom, again, this is just certifying what you've done. Real estate broker, firm who performed the inspection. Again, this is going to be your broker, your office. Okay, now this down here is going to be yourself. Got it. So you're going to sign right there on that line when you go through the DocuSign and date it. So by this time, usually when you're doing your AVID, you know who the buyer and seller are. It's nice to have all that filled out and completed. So you definitely want to fill this little section out right here. And then broker firm representing the seller. It's a good rule of thumb that I do. I fill this out for them, so all they have to do is sign. I put their name in there, and then I put, again, my name and everything. And this is confirming down here, not the same as up here. This is confirming that you've received a copy and that you've read and that you understand the disclosure. Okay? So that's why this can sometimes be a different person than this, right? But it's important to know that this is letting you know that you're receiving a copy. Got it? And that's it. That's the AVID. Super easy, right? Super easy. How about any questions? Stephanie, any other comments? Questions from the peanut gallery?
I was just typing. Yeah, so remember again, we talked about being, take your time. You're detailed in your efforts, right? And sharing this stuff here, this, broken this, that, whatever the case may be, but then still being vague and inconclusive about what it is that you saw. If that makes sense, we're detailed but vague. I know it sounds like we're totally contradicting ourselves, but we just want to make sure we're not concluding, making a conclusion about what it is that we actually saw or how it got there or whatever. Like if you see something like the sidewalk go up, that it's probably from the tree roots, but you're not going to say it's from the tree roots. You're just going to say crack in the sidewalk, right? Even though a lot of us can deduct what the situation is, but take your time, be detailed, and vague.
And after you do a couple of these, you guys, after you get into the flow of it, it becomes really easy. Don't be overwhelmed and don't feel daunted by all of those blank lines and spaces, okay? You don't need to fill up the whole space. Don't feel like you need to write a novel in there because in theory, when you're being more specific, you're actually hurting yourself. Again, be vague. So if you take away anything from this class today, I hope that all of you go and review your AVIDs. If you've done them before, look back and see what you wrote and see what you can work on for the future and moving forward. Go through and do that. If newbies, if you have questions, reach out to your TLs, reach out to your brokers. Sorry guys, blowing up. My phone's blowing up. Reach out to your brokers. Ask them for help because we're here to help you. Okay. Again, be vague but specific.
I think that's a song. I think we should do it.
Okay.
Like
how about anything else, Stephanie?
I like that.
Ellen.
Be vague but specific, right? Specifically vague. Okay. How about anything else, Stephanie?
No, I think that's it. Like I said, if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Reach out to the brokers. Rich and Richard are flipping to me. And I'm sure there'll be other little tidbits, additional tidbits that they'll but it's all good. Just good job.
Cool. Okay, you guys have a good rest of your Monday. Crush your week this week, right? Let's start working hard. Things are moving. Great job for being here for this class today. Educate yourself and start converting those leads, right?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, happy Monday. See you guys all soon, okay?
See you later.